Good afternoon, good afternoon, good afternoon. I want to welcome you to another segment of the Jermaine Brown Sports Talk Show. Today is June the 6th, 2026. It's around 5:36 p.m. I was going to wait until the end of the series, but I decided, no, I'm going to talk about this now. Um, right now, the New York Knicks, or New York Knickerbockers, whatever you want to call them, they're up 2-0 in the series against the San Antonio Spurs in the NBA Finals. Now, what makes this right now, the Knicks is on his historic run. But if you listen to the national media, they can't believe that they can't understand why the Knicks is up 2-0 in this series. Let me tell you why the Knicks are up 2-0 in this series, folks. Stop blaming the Spurs. The Spurs are a young team. I think the average age is like 26, 22, somewhere around the 26 years old. They're a young team. And the Spurs deserve to be here. They beat OKC, so they deserve to be here. But if I want to blame anybody for why the Spurs is down 2-0, I'm going to blame the media and a lot of these so-called NBA analysts and pundits, including ex-players and some even not so much current players, but ex-players. Because when you sit up there and you're preaching that, oh, the Knicks didn't play anybody, and that the Western Conference Finals, which was the Spurs versus OKC, was the real finals. What do you think a young team like the Spurs, an inexperienced team like the Spurs, how do you think they're going to react after winning the Western Conference Finals? They're going to celebrate as if they won the whole thing. Because why? You've already imprinted into their brain that a team like the Knicks cannot compete. Now, I'm not a Knicks fan. Anybody who watches my previous shows knows this. I'm not a Knicks fan, but I can appreciate good basketball when I see it. And I know when something is going on, like something being historic, when I see it. And see, everybody wants to pretend like the Western Conference is so much more dominant than the Eastern Conference. The Eastern Conference was so weak. The Eastern Conference wasn't so weak. Yes, I will give you OKC, San Antonio, Denver. The top teams out west is maybe slightly better than the top teams in the east, but it's not by some wide margin like a lot of people want to make it seem like it's out to be. And not only that, you got to understand something. When you get to the finals, unless a team is grossly undermanned, like the 99's Knicks team, they was grossly undermanned. They could not match up against that Spurs team without Patrick Ewing. They had no chance. But if the team is not grossly undermanned, they got a chance to win. Okay? They deserve to be there, and you got to treat it as such. And so when you keep telling this young, impressionable team that, oh, the real competition is out west, well, they beat the real competition. So now they're thinking, well, everybody's saying that the Knicks didn't play anybody, the Knicks didn't beat anybody. So once they won the conference finals, in their minds, they're thinking, we're going to win this championship. Not understanding that, no, wait a minute, you didn't complete the task. The task now is to win the championship. You got here, now you have to win it. That's the task. Excuse me. That's the task. So now, why is people so shocked that the Spurs is down 2-0 to the Knicks? It's clear you didn't pay attention to what happened in the regular season. And I don't usually like to use regular season because what happens in the regular season and in postseason can be two different things. But notice this trend here. In the regular season, the Spurs dominated OKC, winning 3 out of 4. And they ended up winning the series 4 out of 3. I mean, 4 out of 7 in the postseason. The Knicks in the regular season beat the Spurs. So the Spurs beat OKC 3 out of 4 and dominated them. So it was no surprise to see the Spurs beat OKC in the postseason. However, in the same regular season, the Knicks beat the Spurs 2 out of 3, including the NBA Cup, which I'm not a big fan of that in-season tournament, but nonetheless, they have it. And the Knicks more or less dominated, especially the last matchup, which was on March the 1st. So I'm not shocked to see that the Knicks is up 2-0 on the Spurs. There's an old saying that styles make fights. Okay? And certain teams match up against other teams better than others. That's just the way it works. And you can say, well, who did the Knicks beat? Well, wait a minute. The Knicks beat the opponents that was in front of them. And not only did they beat them badly, which is what you're supposed to do when you're clearly the better team. You don't mess around, you don't fool around. You beat them teams and you beat them badly. That's what good teams do. That's what the Knicks are. They're a good team. But because they came out of the East, no one was respecting them. So now if no one's giving them their respect, you think a young, impressionable team like the Spurs is going to respect them? No. They're going to think fair or not, they're going to think they reached the mountaintop by beating OKC. Because that's how they configured their team, was to beat OKC, not to win the finals. When they put this team together, it was to beat the top team, OKC, or whoever was the top team out west. That's how the Spurs configured this team. The problem is that they just had another round they had to go through. And see, here's another problem I have with the media. They want to blame Wimbyamba, Victor Wimbyamba. I hope I'm pronouncing his name correct. For that turnover late in game 2. It was not Victor's fault, and it was definitely not the head coach's fault. Let's start with the head coach, because people want to blame the head coach for not calling a timeout, saying, well, they're a young team, call the timeout in that spot. Please, no. If you understand the game of basketball, okay, it's about matchups. What do I mean? If the coach for San Antonio, Mitch Johnson, had called the timeout before Wemby turned the ball over, he allows the Knicks to put their defensive unit. The Knicks is one of the top defensive teams in the league, folks. That's why they've been blowing teams out and doing what they've been doing. The Knicks is one of the top defensive teams in the league. So if you call the timeout there, not only are you out of timeouts, but more importantly, you allow the Knicks to now put their defensive unit on the floor, which now is going to make it tougher for you to get a basket. So when Brunson missed that free throw, the smart thing to do was to push the ball up the court while the Knicks still had their offensive unit on the floor. So it was not the head coach's fault. He did the right thing. And had Wemby made that last shot, and that last shot goes in the basket, nobody's talking about Mitch Johnson in that decision. Now let's get on to Victor Wembanyama. People want to blame him for passing that ball there. Like, what were you thinking? It's inexcusable. No, he did the right thing. I'm gonna tell you, if you want to fault anybody, fault the guards for San Antonio, whether it's Julian Castle or Fox, DeAndre Fox. Because why? And I've said this before, and I say this again. Guards is like the quarterback of an NFL team. And especially late in the game, you want the ball in the quarterback's hand. You want the quarterback to determine who gets the ball. You don't want to be having the ball in in the running back's hand without the quarterback touching the ball. That's stupid. Late in the game. That's dumb. The point guard is the quarterback of an NBA team. You cannot win in this league with poor point guard play. You got to have good point guard play to win in this league. And San Antonio got one big player in Wemby, who's 7'5", and a bunch of small guards. Not one of those guards you're supposed to come back to the ball, come back to Wemby and get the ball. You don't ask a 7'5" guy to drive to bring the ball up the court. Not unless he has to. No, come back to the ball and make certain you carry the ball up the court. Especially with the game tied, there was no need for you to go running up the court. So what was the guards doing? So if I'm going to blame anybody on that play, I'm going to blame the guards, if anything. But I'm not going to sit there and fault. San Antonio threw everything at them yesterday in the kitchen sink. They're not losing this series because the mistakes they're making or this and that. They're losing the series because they're losing to a better team, a more experienced team. Keyword team. Okay? That's the real reason why they're losing this series. They're losing this to a better team. Which now brings me to Becky Hammon. I was going to wait until seeing if the Knicks finished off the Spurs before I made a video. But I said, you know what? No, I'm not even going to wait. I'm going to say it right now. And the Knicks still got to win 2 more games. The Knicks haven't accomplished anything yet. But her ridiculous comment when she said 2 years ago that a small guard cannot be a 1A on a championship team, which means he can't be the top dog on a championship team. This is what she actually said. Go look it up. I'm basically quoting her verbatim. I'm not paraphrasing. That's what she said. That they need a dog. That tells me she don't know the history of the NBA. Because in the history of the NBA, there was 2 small guards who were 1A, who helped lead their teams to be the champions. One was the Pistons with Isaiah Thomas, and the other one was Stephen Curry. And I like something what Isaiah Thomas said. Isaiah said, well, wait a minute. Then if a small guard cannot win or lead his team to a championship, then what was I? And I dare her to say that he was not a 1A. He was a 1A. So she doesn't know the history of the game. And then you got these ridiculous people like Stephen A. Smith and all these other people on TV afraid to criticize her because she has a certain complexion and she's a woman. And you got to be careful criticizing a woman because of this PC culture we live in. So nobody wanted, other than Kendrick Perkins, nobody wanted to challenge the stupidity of her statement and say, that's not true when you say that a small guard cannot win, be the lead guy on a championship team, as if it's never happened before, when it's happened at least twice in the history of the game. It shows me she don't know what she's talking about. As my aunt would say, she's running her mouth because it doesn't hurt, because her mouth doesn't hurt. It's just the reality. And then you got Stephen A. Smith up there talking about how she should be the head coach of an NBA team. Well, why should she be the head coach of an NBA team when she doesn't even know the history of the NBA? Why would I put her in charge of being the head coach of an NBA team? And now you got these stupid talking points and topics is, can Jalen Brunson lead his team to a championship? Of course he's capable of doing that. Yes, a small guard can lead his team be the lead guy on a championship team. If you have a team, then anything is possible. Matter of fact, there was a saying in my church, it was a popular Spanish saying, "Todo es posible si puedes creer." All is possible if you just believe. Anything is possible. There's nothing that's what you could say is impossible. Anything is possible if you just believe. But it has happened before. And rather than focus on what San Antonio is not doing or what the Cleveland Cavaliers didn't do or anything like that, I'm going to focus on this Knicks historic run because I do appreciate good basketball. And right now, the Knicks have won 13 in a row. They haven't lost since April 23rd, which was the night of the the NFL draft. That's the last time they lost. It's going on almost 2 months before the last time they lost a game. You got to acknowledge that, you know what? Something's happening. Now, I'm not saying the Knicks are going to win the finals, but they should be able to finish off the San Antonio Spurs. But anything is possible. Now you hear some people saying, oh, it's impossible for the Spurs to win the series now. No, I'm not going to tell you it's impossible. An injury here, an injury there, or the Knicks let go the rope. Anything's technically possible. Not, I don't think the Knicks is going to let go the rope, so I think that's very unlikely. But anything is possible. And then you hear, well, oh my God, the Garden is going to be a madhouse, and nobody's ever experienced what it's like to, you know, to see what the Garden is going to be like, yada yada. And I remember something Ric Flair said one time, the great wrestler back in the day. Crowds don't win championships. The crowd can cheer for you and do all of that, but they can't help you win the championship. They don't win championships. You have to win it. To be the man, you have to beat the man. That's what he was famous for saying. And no matter how raucous the Garden is going to be, and the Garden is going to be raucous starting this upcoming Monday. But at the end of the day, they can't get on the court and play. The Knicks have to play on the line. And see, the one good thing about being a young team is they're too dumb to even, or too naive. Let me not use the word dumb. They're too naive to know what's getting ready to come. So that's actually a good thing because now you can just go and play. And you don't got to worry about meeting expectations and all this other stuff. You just go and play. And the Knicks is going to be a tough out. But so will San Antonio. This has been like a heavyweight fight, and I'm glad to see this in the finals. Two teams fighting, and it was very physical yesterday, and it's good. I want to see a dislike on the other side and all this other stuff. And if the Knicks go on and win, which would be the first time that they have done it in 53 years, New York City will be bananas. And again, I'm not a Knicks fan, but it is great to see when New York is sitting. I mean, when the Knicks are on top, everything's good in the NBA. It's just a reality. There's a reason why they call the Garden the Mecca. Okay, it's just a reality. And if anybody got $10,000, for me to have a ticket to go see Game Three, no, I would not spend $10,000 to go see a basketball game at the Garden. I'm not going to do that. I'm just not going to do that. You know, I mean, it's cheaper to fly to San Antonio and see the if I want to see the Knicks, go see them there. You know, that's why I'm a Nets fan because it was easier and cheaper to go see the Nets play than it was to always go see the Knicks play. So, and I've seen the Nets play many of times where the Knicks I've just never seen them play in person. But I've seen the Nets play many times in person. So that's why I'm a Nets fan. It's just what it is. But I'm happy for New York. It's a good thing. And again, I'm not anti Spurs, San Antonio Spurs. I like the San Antonio Spurs, but they're a young team, and they're going to be a team that's going to be a force to reckon with in the future. But it might be just the Knicks' time right now. I want to thank you for watching another segment of the Jermaine Brown Sports Talk Show. Have a nice day. If you like it, give a thumbs up, leave a comment. It helps the algorithm and all that other stuff. And so, speak to you later. Bye bye.